everyone. Good morning and good evening to our friends coming from US and China. And this is the Way Forward webinar brought to you by US Heartland China Association with close collaboration with the US-China Business Council today. And the topic today is new reality of doing business in China. The Heartland China Association is a Heartland-based grassroots nonprofit committed to building strong, stable US-China ties for the benefit of the economic benefit of the Heartland region. We believe that not all bridges built of concrete steel, so we're really glad to have this community of bridge builders gather here. And two logistics, one is Q&A. Please enter your questions through Q&A. We have disabled the chat with the panelists. We did receive a lot of questions before, so our speakers will try to address those throughout the conversation, but definitely feel free to enter your more questions. Finally, at end of the 1 hour public program, USHCA and US-China Business Council members and our guests are invited to a private dialogue with our panelists, which will not be recorded. And our chairman, Governor Holden, was going to join us, give his opening remarks. Unfortunately, due to a little bit technical difficulty, he's not able to join, but he really sees US-China as two countries that should and must find a way to work together and prosper together. So really delighted to have Craig and Albert and Liza here. And without further ado, I'm gonna introduce our moderator, Liza Mark, partner at Haynes Boone LLP and a board member of USHCA. Liza has spent over 20 years as a legal professional. She works with some of the biggest firms in the US, Hong Kong, and Shanghai. She most recently actually started the Shanghai office of Haynes Boone LLP, an international corporate law firm, in 2013. And she's the administrative partner of the office. She's a partner in the capital markets and securities practice group and regularly works in the firm's Shanghai and Dallas office. She's currently marooning Dallas, like a lot of people. She represents investors, issuers, and investment banks, financial intermediaries, in financing transactions, including equity and debt public offerings and cross-border private placement in Hong Kong, India, and the US. She has deep industry expertise in clean tech, energy, transportation, logistics, and on and on and on. And she actually graduated from Indiana University, Bloomington in the Heartland region, but went on to receive her JD from University of California, Berkeley. So thank you, Liza, for being our moderator. And I'm gonna turn to you to introduce our speakers, guests today, and then we'll move on to the rest of the program. Thank you, Liza.
Thank you, Min. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. It's my great honor to introduce our two panelists today, Craig Allen and Albert Xie. Craig just told me that he grew up in Japan. Craig is currently the president of the United States-China Business Council, which he took over in 2018. He was also previously the U.S. ambassador to Brunei from 2014 to 18. And before that, he served as the Deputy Assistant Secretary of China in Washington and had served in the Department of Commerce and the U.S. Embassy in South Africa and the U.S. Embassy in Beijing in China. So he has long and very deep roots in the international kind of State Department relationships. Our second guest is Albert. Albert Xie is essentially the Vice President of Public Policy and Government Relations for GM China and has done that job for 17 years. The interesting part about Albert's background is he knows how to maintain airplanes. In fact, he grew up in China and taught for 11 years on aircraft maintenance. And as he tells it, he learned his English or practices in English most during that period. So welcome to both. And today's topic is extremely interesting and very apropos right now because of the US-China relationship, rather difficult US-China relationship. So let me kind of cast the context and dive straight into the problems of what we see as today. There are great changes happening in both China and the U.S. For China, they just unveiled their 14th five-year plan. They just joined the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP, and is shifting the economy to the dual circulation concept, or dual circulation model, where they're emphasizing both their internal circulation and also the external circulation. They are certainly also ramping up their welcome of international commerce or international investments by adopting the new foreign investment law and opening up their finance industry. So with that, these amounts of changes exacerbated by the COVID situation, you can see that the Chinese economy is changing rapidly. Conversely, on the US side, we just went through a fairly difficult presidential election. The current and to be soon prior administration went through 4 years of American first emphasis, a retraction from the world participation, like withdrawing from the WTO, withdrawing from the Paris Convention, and emphasizing more an internal focus in the US rather than an external focus. And essentially a 2+ years of trade war with China. And so you can see that both countries are going through pretty seismic shifts of policy positions and its relation to the world. China is opening more, US has gone through a period of contraction and inward focus. Under those circumstances, the topic that we're going to discuss becomes very important because, as we all know, US and China trade and investment has grown for the past 30-odd years and has sort of reached an apex somewhere close to 2014, 15, and 16. So, Albert, let me start with you. Given the size and development of the middle class in China, China is rapidly shifting from a manufacturing base for the world to become a very, very important market for the rest of the world. What, in your estimation, is the current situation for China as a market, and how do you anticipate that international companies should adjust itself while approaching the China market or expanding in the China market?
Okay, thank you very much, Lisa. I think when you mentioned that China quickly shifted from the manufacturing to a international market, and I think probably we need to push back a little bit more. That when I was growing up in China, 60s, 70s, and even early 80s, China basically is a very closed community. And I heard a report today saying probably 95% of the GDP are all domestic consumption or production. So it is closed. And then the open up, the 40 years open up actually brings China to quickly develop, and with the welcome the international investment in China in the 80, 90, even 20s. And now China, as you mentioned, shifted the policy and focus to the domestic market again. When you talk about the market size, I would like to mention that right now in China, there's about 175 vehicles out of 1,000 people. And compare with US, probably 800 vehicles out of 1,000 people. Japan, 600. European, 650, and even Malaysia, probably around 500 to 600. So China may not catch up and does not want to catch up to that car pack. But when China automobile industry became a mature market, probably still gotta have a 400 vehicles out of 1,000 people, meaning from now to the future mature market, you still have a double or triple potentials to grow. That's give you the size of this market. And General Motor has been, China is the number one automobile market globally for the past quite some time, 9 years, I believe. And it's always the number one in terms of volume, and still have such huge potential to growth. So that's giving the focus for the company here. And not only the just the potential volume, but if you look at today, the automobile industry is also transitioning from the traditionally internal combustion engine vehicle burning the gas to electrical vehicle, from the original purely mechanical machine running and to electronical equipment, autonomous driving, connected vehicle, et cetera, et cetera. So technology still have a huge change here. And also the consumers' preference here in China is also changing, because the people, younger people now looking not only the traditional vehicle, they need to get the vehicle connected and spend much more longer time enjoy it with the vehicle. They can see things, purchasing, buy things, so a lot of activity actually is going to happen in the inside the vehicle. So that's all the changes with a huge market that drive the company's focus in this market. I'll stop here.
Okay. All right. So Craig, let me counterjuxt the discussion between China and U.S., right? And so, given what we're seeing on the political side, and given the new Biden transition that is about to happen, and we just got news that Biden is nominating Catherine Tai as the U.S. Trade Representative. Can you give us a little bit of expectation of what the Biden administration's policy position with China is going to be? And I understand that you've worked closely with Ms. Tai before. If you could give a little bit of color as to where you think her positions are going to be, that would be very much appreciated.
Well, thank you very much, Lisa. A pleasure to be here with Albert and the governor, of course. Very grateful to the Heartland China Association for this opportunity. We are definitely at an inflection point, and policies, both in China and in the US, are shifting. And there will be both continuity and discontinuity as President-elect Biden assumes the office at noon on January 20th. So in terms of continuity, the geopolitical tensions that exist between China and the United States are not going to go away. Also, the trade deficit, which has been growing, particularly at this point of time characterized by COVID are not going to change. The tensions that we see on the technology side also are not going to change. And that is a focus by both governments who are concerned by national security and the development of AI, 5G, big data, and other high-tech civilian technologies that may have an impact on national security. That won't change. What will change is that the Biden administration is, at least they say, that they are going to very much value and closely coordinate with allies, friends, and partners. And I think that when they say that, they're thinking the EU, Japan, Korea, Australia, Canada first. But probably it is beyond that as well. And that in dealings with China, they would prefer that they be multilateral. Liza, you had mentioned that the Trump administration had pulled out of a number of international organizations. I think that there will be a refocus on those same organizations, and particularly the US will be rejoining the Paris Convention and certainly the WHO in January, soon after the inauguration. Vis-a-vis China, I expect that the Biden administration is going to take its time, going to consult with allies, going to work toward a common understanding with friends and partners. That's okay because the Phase 1 agreement signed by President Trump and Vice Premier Liu He on January 15th of this year is actually pretty good. And it's especially pretty good in the Midwest because it's supporting corn, soybean, wheat, cotton, meat prices pretty effectively. So US agriculture exports to China are up 40% this year, approximately. And so that's a success. And I think it's a success that many in the Heartland are appreciating. Going forward, the Phase 1 agreement ends on December 31st of 2021. And by that time, I think that that gives us about 13 months from now to be able to negotiate a new agreement and to reorient ourselves vis-a-vis China. Now, China, as Albert suggested, is extremely dynamic. Not only is China the world's largest market, it's also the world's largest supplier. It's also our toughest competitor. And it's also a geopolitical rival. It's all four of those things. And that makes policy vis-a-vis China very complex. How do you square the tensions of those four different perspectives on US-China relations? This will remain very dynamic. Now, Catherine Tsai is as fine a public servant as you will ever find. She is very hardworking. She knows trade. She's prosecuted in the WTO many cases against China, all successfully, so far as I know. And she helped to negotiate and close the deal on USMCA, an important agreement. So she's a superb pick, and she will be working with others who are similarly very pragmatic and principled public servants, such as Jake Sullivan in the NSC, and of course, Tony Blinken as Secretary of State. So at least in my view, this is good cause to be optimistic, but also knowledgeable about the tensions that will absolutely remain within the relationship. But hopefully it is an opportunity for many in the heartland to continue to take advantage of China's growth that Albert so beautifully described, but which is pulling in imports from agriculture and many, many other industries as well. So a good time to relook at China as a market and our opportunities that may lie there. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. This is a very interesting topic for me because I look at the cross-border trade and investment. Let me press you a little bit about what you just said on, look, China is extremely dynamic, and China has grown from 20 years ago a manufacturing base to 10 years ago a potentially very, very large internal market to now being perceived as a significant geopolitical rival for the U.S. because China is growing richer. It's coming up in the international stance intentionally, right? Under those circumstances, and we are anticipating that China is not going to stop its development. U.S. is internally feeling a little uncertain or a little kind of chased after, shall we say. What are the areas that you see China and U.S. could and would, more importantly, work together? International firms that have invested into China, both as a manufacturing base and also as a potential market, has dealt with or have had to navigate a lot of the geopolitical tension. Under those circumstances, how do you see that changing as well? So, two-part question. Craig, yes, sorry.
So China has changed, and China is a geopolitical rival. And we are in a competition with China, both regionally and globally. And I think that that is a competition, while perhaps we don't welcome, it is a competition that is unavoidable. And I think that there are two types of competition. There's one where you could try to win by hurting the other guy. And there's a competition that you try to win by getting better yourself. And I think that this competition between the two is transitioning a little bit, perhaps temporarily though, to focusing on how we could run faster, compete smarter, and take advantage of the other guy's vulnerabilities. Now, rather than out there trying to cause the other person to run slower. So this is absolutely a race, and one that I think that America will do very well on, given our innate strengths and China's innate weaknesses. China has a terrible demographic situation with as many as 25% of the population over the age of 65 in only 10 years. China's labor force is declining. China has health problems and environmental problems and all sorts of problems. So China has its vulnerabilities, and when Xi Jinping goes to sleep at night, I don't think he's worried about the competition with the US. I think he's worried about demographics and healthcare and education and environmental concerns. So for US companies that are invested in China, the Chinese side is making it, the Chinese government that is making it absolutely clear to not only GM, but to all American investors in China that they're very welcome to take part in China's growth. And indeed, we have had a significant liberalization within China's foreign investment regime over the last year that has led to, I won't say a surge, but an increase in foreign direct investment in China. And I would expect that to continue. Depending on your China, as Albert suggested, is a very large percentage of the total automotive and global automotive industry. But the same would be true in every other industry as well. It's not only automotive. If you were to look at food or financial services or entertainment or education or fashion or luxury or fast-moving consumer goods, it doesn't matter. China's the world's largest market in that industry. And China has the scale that is super important. If in economics, economies of scale is important, then China is important because China represents 20% of the world's population. Probably about 20%, a little bit less. I'd say 17, 18% of the global economy compared to about 24% in the US. Together, we're about 40%. So I could state it very simply. If an American company is not a leader in China, then they are not a global leader. You must be a leader in China to take advantage of those global economies of scale. And if you're not in China, then you're not a global leader. And American suppliers, American farmers, workers, and ranchers know that. And if we are to have a healthy employment situation in the United States, we need to take advantage of China's growth. Americans who wish China a lower growth rate are wishing to do America harm because we need to export to China. The global economy needs that growth. And if we didn't have that growth, then the global economy would be much worse off. And that would, of course, inevitably include American farmers, workers, and ranchers. And that's not something that any of us should wish for. We want a healthy, growing China that is becoming better integrated with the global economy. And that's what we're fighting for. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Albert, let me turn it back to you because you are on the front lines of observing the change in the Chinese market for the last 10, 15 years. And you are probably hand on the rudder as to how your company, a very large, very well-known US company, is shifting its focus in its approach to the Chinese market. Can you walk us through a little bit how GM has changed its focus in relation to the Chinese market and its development? And in the last, let's say, 2.5 years, when the trade war between US and China has been at its most fervent, how has GM kind of avoided the fray and just being successful in China without getting drawn into the country-to-country spat?
Thank you, Lisa. Just before I answer your question, just let you know that I know Craig. We know each other for more than 20 years. So, a longtime friend since he is working here. At that time, I was working in General Electrics. Well, back to your question that probably General Motors may not be a very good example you're trying to search for, as General Motors has the strategy of we build where we sell with a skill. Given the such large market, 20 years ago, GM made a decision to form a joint venture in China. And then we built up our suppliers around our factory all over China. So up to now, all the vehicles we sold in China are made in China. All the parts are sourcing from China. Probably 95, 97% of the parts are sourcing from China. And not only sourcing from China, the suppliers in China also support our global operation. So the trade, the tariff is not good for us, has negative impact to us, but not as that significant because we are pretty much well established in China. You know, for 20 years, if you develop a supplier and a group of suppliers with volume, with quality, consistent quality, and good price, it's not easy. So that is that's give the advantages for General Motors to deeply develop and grow with China together.
Okay. Have you noticed any change in company strategy because of the U.S.-China governmental tensions? Have you guys adjusted the supply chain or done other things because you anticipate that the strategy needs to pivot?
We are looking at the supply chain thing, particularly not just the U.S. Trade friction. The COVID-19 is another example that when we started, the COVID-19 outbreak in Wuhan, and we have a lot of suppliers in Wuhan, and those shops are closed, causing our China, at that time, China shop is closed, but the global sites are still production in Mexico, in US, in South Africa, and we eagerly need to get those parts to the other global sites. So we're working with Chinese government. The good thing, Chinese government help us a lot. They call the suppliers by suppliers, call by part numbers, asking the suppliers to open up the door, to open up their warehouse to get the parts shipped out. That was in March, when the outside is still not quite badly impacted yet. And then when China quickly recovered their production, the outside world got a problem. So we're looking at this supply chain, just COVID-19 and plus the trade friction, tariff, etc. Probably a lot of companies are thinking, back in the 70s, or there's a zero stock, just in time kind of a supply chain concept, probably too much fragile. And we're looking for kind of, near the China operation in Asia region, these RCEP you just mentioned earlier, the 15 countries in Asia, Australia, and they are eventually dropped to zero tariff. That could be a good opportunity for us to relook at the supply chain in this region. Probably North America, Mexico, South America, another one. And even it is, you have a different group of suppliers for different focus in the region, but you still have overlap. You can support each other. That's give you redundancy, but everything with a cost, because many companies select the strategy as a sole source from one suppliers. And now if you're sourcing from one supplier, and once this supplier got any problem, you're stuck in the global operation. So that's the changes the company have to think about this. Fundamentally, when we're looking at the parts and talk about suppliers, we are looking basically just three things: better, faster, and cheaper, right? So that's everybody doing the same thing, and you have to think about, if you have two suppliers, and then the cost probably not the same as sole sourced from one, but you get the redundancy and insurance for the supply. Thank you.
Okay. Well, let me press you a little bit then, because what you're talking about right there is what I call the balkanization of the supply chain. Because of the trade friction, because of COVID and how that has demonstrated the fragility of the supply chain if you have very long and international ones, a lot of companies, global international companies particularly, are thinking about reorienting their supply chain. And what you're talking about is more nearshoring, right? Where you may not have your supply chain completely in one country, but you want to keep your supply chain close and build redundancy into it. So for the China market, you would want to look at the RCEP kind of 15 Asian countries where you build a supply chain that is sort of internally constructed, and hopefully nothing happens to it.
Whereas, and we already have a 95% in China already. You remember that?
Right.
We already have a 90% in China.
Mm-hmm. So kind of how are you, if you already have 95% in China and you're building redundancy in the other Asian countries, then you're standalone independent. How is that going to change the calculation for international companies that are supporting maybe not just one market in China, but also the rest of the world, right? Because they used to manufacture a lot in China. Given the trade frictions, given the tensions, geopolitical tensions, and given what we just went through on COVID, what are you seeing, not just for GM, but for the other international corporations that are manufacturing in China? And are you seeing a major shift in their supply chain?
I don't think there's a lot of change shifting for supply chain. And some have come, actually this foreign companies pay attention on the supply chain is actually before the trade friction started. Some of the company looking at, because China has developed, and at the very beginning, they're looking for China with low labor rate, and China labor rate has been increased quite a bit. So the company is consistently looking at the better opportunities, better, faster, and cheaper. And it takes time to develop a quality suppliers. So the trade friction probably accelerates some of the company to make decision. You have to figure out how you solve this problem. Trade friction and tariff is not a good thing, across the board for all the companies. We don't like that. And even we have 90%, 97% parts sourcing from China, we still have parts from US, and we're still supporting from China to other global. So this globalization is for multinational companies. Everybody is the same, using one supplier to supply to your global other regions. And this trade friction giving the challenge to everybody to look at how you face this situation and continue to maintain your production and serve your customer timely at affordable price. So
okay.
It's still changing, still evolving, and people are still looking for different ways to solve the challenge. I don't think it is already done yet.
Okay. All right. Craig, let me turn it back to you, because we had talked about the new Biden administration. We had seen previously in the current administration that there's a stiff focus on export control and security, national security concerns. And in the new Biden administration, I believe there is at least a specter of asking the question of, hey, perhaps we should make sure that certain things like PPEs are manufactured onshore. So with the combination of national security consideration and also the consideration of there are certain goods that should be brought closer to home, how are you seeing the international supply chain shift? And what are the opportunities that you see for Midwestern manufacturers or companies to take advantage of in this major dynamic shift?
Great. Thank you. So I think that the Biden administration has made it very clear that they will be focused on jobs. And part of that, a large part of that, is manufacturing. And that there is a will to bring back manufacturing to the extent that it is possible. I think that there are, the Congress would generally support that program. And indeed, within the House Ways and Means Committee, there are a couple of bills that would help to companies to reshore. I think we will see action there, perhaps over today or tomorrow, in the Defense Reauthorization Act, particularly for the semiconductor industry. And there has been a movement within that industry already. As both the Trump administration and the Biden administration look at this, they are concerned about a single point of failure, which Albert raised. And particularly concerned about a single point of failure if that might be in China, because China has, on occasion and currently with regard to Australia, used very harsh economic coercive measures, and we don't wish to see such measures used against us. And so with regard to PPE or other essential drugs and medicines, there is an interest in incentivizing investment in the United States. And I think from a corporate perspective, you could look at this as either carrots or sticks. We don't like sticks when there are negatives incentives. Oh, a tariff, for example, or other coercive acts by the government. Rather, incentives or the carrot side is much more effective. A nice, good carrot cake delivered to the front door is better than a stick. How effective will these measures be at bringing reshoring manufacturing in the United States? I think that government effort there is helpful at the margin, but really it is the fundamental issues that manufacturers face in the United States that is much more important. Can they find the workers with the right training? What are the environmental and other regulatory structure? What are the markets? Will they be able to sell their product? The main reason why so many companies are attracted to China is that China is going to represent in 2020 probably 100% of global growth. In 2021, probably 40 or 50% of global growth. And when we get out of COVID-19, only 30% of global growth. So companies are in China because they have to be in China. And companies are manufacturing in China because that's where the growth is, and they need to be close to the market. China has many other competitive advantages. A good cheap labor, particularly engineering talent. And the United States is going to have to work on those fundamentals. Our decline in R&D spending, I think, should be a concern to everyone who is interested in bringing back or reshoring manufacturing to the United States. The United States has to stay at the forefront. We have to invest to stay in the forefront. We have no God-given right to be the leaders in manufacturing or anything else. We need to earn it. And so there is some reshoring going on. But I think going back to the earlier conversation, some manufacturers are looking at Mexico or Canada and saying, well, you know, that would be a good way to supply the US market as well. So we have to be very competitive. Governors, of course, play a very important role in this, providing incentives to manufacturers, as do mayors. So we're in a competitive race here, and we need to realize that and really work hard if we're going to be winning that race over the longer term. This is not a 1 or 2 year process. It should be a 20, 30, 50, 100-year process. And I think the longer you look out, the better off we are. But in the short term, we better train hard. We better get ourselves in good shape. We better compete strongly and effectively. We got to run the race faster. And to do so, we could probably be in better shape. There's no time better than now to take a look at those issues and ensure that we're in top fighting form. Thank you.
Okay. Just as a quick follow-up, right, to you, Craig, when U.S. and the Soviet Union had its shall we say, competition back in the 80s and 90s, right? There was, as I understand it, a grand plan from the US side as to, okay, here's how we're going to have to deal with the Soviet Union. And that grand plan, in the general context of it, was held up, and all the geopolitical policies were based off of that grand plan. As far as I'm seeing for now, at least for the current administration, there doesn't seem to be a grand plan. It was more of a kind of tactical rather than a grand strategic positioning. Are you seeing that the Biden administration will at least have one and announce one? And if you believe that they will have one, any hints or guidance as to where you think the grand plan will land and how that affects companies that have international trade aspects to them? This is a very broad question, but I'm very curious as to your thoughts on this.
Well, I would start out by saying I think that you need to be careful of your metaphor because the metaphor that you adopt will lead to the conclusion if you compare China to Russia or to Germany or to Japan or the Greek and Roman or Athens and Sparta, be careful because that will influence your thinking. And we need to look at the facts precisely on the ground and not ride on a historic analogy that might not be appropriate. And in the case of China, it's not the Soviet Union. It doesn't have that aggressive outward bound expansion. It is not supporting communist parties around the world. It is not sending troops to dominate other countries. You do not have the Red Army going into Poland or Hungary or Czechoslovakia or whatever. It's very different. But it's complicated because China is very well integrated in the global economy. And I think, as Albert said very beautifully, that Asia is integrating economically into a unit that is necessarily going to be dominated, at least percentage-wise, by China, as China represents probably, well, China would have 60-70% of 70% of East Asia's population. And if you throw in India, China would have only 45% of East Asia's population. So the scale there is important. My own view is that what the Biden administration is signaling is that it will look at allies, friends, and partners and multilateral institutions as it prepares for this longer-term cooperation with China, and that it wishes to engage in this competition with China hand in hand with the EU, Japan, Korea, etc. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I think that it's not going to be easy. Our relationship with the EU is tense. There are many, many disputes with the EU. So is that really an effective team, I think is a reasonable question. Also, China is not, China has agency, and China's diplomacy has been remarkably effective, in my view. I'm a lifelong diplomat, and I have to admire how good, how smart, how effective they have been, particularly on the economic diplomacy vis-a-vis RCEP. Xi Jinping and also Premier Li Keqiang, so both the president and the premier have said that China will join the CPTPP. Now that's a challenge to the United States, and it's a challenge to American exporters. It's a challenge to American farmers, workers, and ranchers. Do we have the political cohesion and a consensus to relook at CPTPP? Could we get that through the Congress? And I think that that's a very challenging issue right now within Washington. I think that the general consensus within Washington today is that we don't have the votes to get TPP through the Congress. That may change if China begins formal negotiations for the TPP. That would be a direct challenge to U.S. interests, and that could change. But right now, I think that the Biden administration is considering its options, looking at the potential avenues, kind of looking at Congress, at how much, what weight can this bridge hold to see whether or not we might re-engage on multilateral trade agreements. And I think that the jury on that is very much out. No clarity on that right now. Maybe in 6 months, we'll have a better idea about what Catherine Tsai and the administration is looking for over the longer term. Politically, though, getting trade promotion authority and getting congressional approval on any large agreement is going to be extremely challenging. And I think that that's not a bad starting point. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. I have so many other questions, both submitted from the attendees and previously submitted, but unfortunately we are close to time. And so let me hand it back to Min to take us to the next part of our program.
Okay, thank you. I want to mention that we do have another hour maximum reserved with our speaker. This actually right now ends our public program portion. So at this time, what I would like to ask is that if you are US-China Business Council member And if you are a US Heartland China Association member or guest, please stay on. We will give our panelists a little break to get a little water when we regroup in a smaller group. I will mention that thanks to members of Craig Allen's organization, we are actually offering essential ingredients of business success in and with China in January. Again, we're trying to help Heartland region businesses to really explore the opportunity in China. I want to make sure you stay in touch with us. There's a QR code. You can scan the QR code, take a picture, and register for that January 28th session. So with that, I'm going to, our facilitator is going to start cleaning up the room a little bit, the virtual room. So if you're a member, stay on. If you're a guest, stay on. And we will regroup in a small group shortly. Thank you for your time and have a good rest of your day.